All right, happy Friday, everybody. I'm out today, so I expect outstanding behavior. There is going to be no challenge question today. We're going to jump into going over our homework and then taking notes, and hopefully you will leave Friday with no homework. Well, you have an assignment, but hopefully you will complete it in class time. And I expect, as I said, outstanding behavior for my substitute so that I don't have to come back and deal with any kind of discipline issues. We do have a Unit 8 test on Thursday this week, and so if you do finish your assignment today, there will be a opportunity for you to get some extra credit. And so you can do a quizzes and do that. Today is the last day of third quarter, so if you have any other missing assignments, get them in by the end of the day as well. And make sure that you have submitted assignment 126 to Canvas. Have page 126 out, and that is page 11 in your packet, and we're going to go ahead and go over those answers. So really quick, homework for rectangular prisms, volume formula is length times width times height. So as we look at number 1, your answer should be 504 inches cubed. Make sure that you have the correct label on yours. Remember, you guys can pause the video as you grade if you need to. If we have a fraction, we want to make sure we change all fractions to improper. And so in this case, it is still length times width times height. And you will notice that the easier route would be to have simplified the 8 and the 8. And now you just really have to do 9 times 7, which is 63 meters cubed. And so once again, don't change them to decimals. Go ahead and just keep them in their fraction form. Number 3, length times width times height. You have a calculator. Should be super easy. If you didn't have a calculator, obviously you'd have a lot more work, but 493 inches cubed. The cereal box, you just need to determine which is your length, which is your width, which is your height. It doesn't really matter what you call what, as long as you have one length, one width, one height, and you get 225 cubic inches for the cereal box. Number 5, I like. This is what they're going to expect on iLearn. This is application. So as you look, you have this shape that is made up of really 2 rectangular prisms. So you have this rectangular prism, basically, and then you have that little, whoops, that's not a great drawing, but you have that little cab part. So you have this little part over here that we need to figure out. And so the easiest way for most of us is to break it into 2, and this bottom obviously is 20, and then this was 7, and the height, or the width was 7. So that's where you get the 980. Now, when you break the other one, it becomes 2 is the height, and we had 20. This would be 2 here, and then 7 this way, and so that's where we get the 28, add them together. Number 6 is also a question that you should be expected to be able to do. Notice the key word is it does tell you volume of a rectangular prism. So step 1, if you just write the formula, makes the problem really easy. That 1008 was the volume, and then you have the height, plug it in for your height, and then your width was 16, and so we're missing L this time. So I would multiply, get 192, and then divide. Some students would have divided by 16, then divided by 12. You're still going to get the same answer, and you get 5.25 meters for your length. All right, so once again, if you needed to pause or go back and look at some of those examples, feel free to do that if there's any questions. Now turn back a page, and we're going to go to page 10 in your notes packet, because we did page 9, which was the rectangular prisms. Now we're going to talk about volume of a cylinder. Now, volume of a cylinder, it is the same formula, basically, that we dealt with yesterday. The capital B is area of the base. Well, once again, a base in a cylinder is a circle. And area of a circle is pi r squared. So what you're really doing is you're taking this pi r squared and you're plugging it in. Now, you're given this formula. I would recommend that you star it, but I would write it actually a little bit bigger. So I'm going to write it, volume is, and it's going to be written this way, pi r squared, which once again is a circle, times the height of the prism, or the cylinder. And so I'd get that written down nice and big on the top, and this is for cylinders only, and that is for volume. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a couple of straightforward examples. And so we're going to start with volume. We once again Look at that shape. It's a cylinder. I look at my formula sheet, and it is pi r squared times the height. So I go and I'm going to look at my picture, and in the picture we have 10, which this line goes halfway, which is our radius then. So I'm going to have pi. My radius is 10. And the height then connects your bases always. Even if this cylinder is laying on its side, the 15 would be our height. Now, I'm going to throw one extra kind of line of work in here just to remind you, you've got to do your exponents first. So 10 squared is 10 times 10, which is 100, then times 15. So the volume is 15 times 100 is 1,500 pi. And now you can go ahead and take your calculator. You can do 3.14 when you plug that into your pi. And as you guys take your calculators, your overall volume then is 4,710, and it's yards cubed or cubic yards. And don't forget, once again, to label in cubic units. That's a key. You're trying to figure out how many cubes fill the shape. You're finding capacity. For surface area, you're finding square units. That's also a big key to identifying what you're asked to find. If you see cubic units, you know it's volume. If it's square units, you know you're talking surface area. All right, as we look at this one, once again, our cylinder this time is laying on its side. It asks us for volume, so I'm going to go ahead and just straightforward copy the formula. Once I've copied the formula, I'm now going to, I know this is going to be pi. Now I'm going to look at my shape. And as I look at the shape, this time, I see this line goes all the way across. It doesn't matter what the arrow is pointing at, that whole line then is my D, which would be my diameter. So the radius, therefore, remember the radius goes only halfway, so the radius of this would be 3 centimeters. And so we're going to go ahead and put in 3 squared, and this then would be my height, which is 12. Now we're going to go ahead and remember, I'm going to do one step at a time. I don't know why I wrote a V there. That's supposed to be pi. And 3 squared is 9. And then I have times 12. Well, 9 times 12 is 108 pi. And so the overall volume, once you multiply by 3.14, is 339 and 12 centimeters cubed. All right, now if it was an assignment like we had last night where it says round to the nearest tenth, then it would be 339, and because behind the 1 is a 2, it would round to that. So just be aware of that as you're looking at as you're doing your work, okay? And once again, if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause this, and you guys can raise your hand and just let the teacher know that you need to slow down a little bit. All right, so this one, it tells you volume of a cylinder. Anytime I see that, I know I'm going to just write the formula. So I go and look, and I'm going to write the formula. So volume is pi r squared times the height. It says the volume of a cylinder is, which means is equal to 88 yards cubed, and has a radius of 4 yards. What is the height? So this is an example, once again, of where we're going to have to work backwards. So as I look at this question, when it says this is my volume, that has to go then underneath the V, because that stands for volume. The radius, well, pi is still pi. The radius is 4. Well, that goes underneath the R. And then my height is what's missing this time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go 88. And once again, this is going to be, all right, 16 times pi, because 4 squared, times the height. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply these. So 16 times pi is going to give me 50.24 H. Now remember, our goal is to isolate Elsa, so Elsa wants to be all by herself, so we're going to divide both sides by 50.4, or 24 rather, and that will simplify out, and our height then is going to be approximately, well, it ends up being approximately, it's kind of ugly, but approximately 1.75, and it would just be yards, not yards cubed, all right, because you're working backwards, and the volume's found in cubic, but the lengths and the radius and the height and those things are always going to be in their regular units. All right, the next question, so that's a work backwards question. This next question is kind of can be kind of tricky, but we got to read what the question's asking us for. So in this case, it says how much salsa is missing from the jar. So if we look at this jar and kind of identify what we're trying to find, we're trying to find this section here that is missing all of the salsa. Now, there's a couple ways of doing this. Some of you would have noticed and you would have said, I'm going to do the full jar, which is 10, and I'm going to take away the part of the jar that is the, excuse my drawing, the salsa, which has a radius 4. Now, some of you, and you can do that, you could find the volume of this, and you could find the volume of this, and you could subtract them. Or you could kind of notice that if I were to look and see that this is 10 here for the height of the entire jar, and this right here is 4, then this distance right here would have to be 6 centimeters. And so what I'm really trying to find is this section, if you would, that's up on top. This is what I'm trying to find, and it has the same radius that's above, which is 5, and it has the height of 6, not a height of 4. And so all I really need to do is find the volume of that empty section, and the radius, once again, as we look at the picture, the radius is up here, which is 5. So it's going to be pi. This is going to be 5 squared. And the height of the empty section is 6. And so we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to put pi, and 25 is what we have here, times 6 is, well, I should have erased it. I'm going to erase that real quick. So it ends up being 150 pi. And so the overall volume is 471 centimeters cubed. And you could have done it the other way, and you should come out to the same. So obviously when you're dealing with some problem-solving questions, you can have different ways of getting to the same answer. All right, this final question is kind of new. It says about how many gallons, so once again, we got to pay attention to what the question's asking. How many gallons of water does the cooler hold? Now, the key idea here is it doesn't tell us anything about how many gallons. We have feet over here, we have feet over here, but what we do see in the problem, we see that 1 cubic foot, okay, 1 cubic foot is approximately 7.5 gallons of water. And we have multiple choice here, so we're not going to just randomly guess, but since I see cubic feet, I know that I need to find the volume. And this shape is really just a cylinder. And so I'm going to go pi r squared times the height. And so we're going to go pi, and if this distance, 1, goes all the way across, that would be the diameter, so the radius would be 0.5. So we're going to put in 0.5 squared, and the 1.7 would then be the height of this water jug. And now we're going to go ahead and this is going to be 0.25 when you do, you're using your calculator. And then we go ahead and we get 0.425 when you multiply those, 0.25 times 1.7 and times pi. And now when we multiply that, we get approximately 1.3345 in its cubic feet. Now, if you go up and look at our answer choices, we don't have that anywhere up there. We have 5.3, 10, 17, and 40 gallons. This is cubic feet. Each one of those cubic feet, as it says up here, is approximately 7.5 gallons. So what we do is we take this answer and multiply by 7.5 because each one of the cubic feet is 7.5 gallons. So when you multiply that, you get approximately 10.00875 gallons. So that means answer B is what we're looking for on this question. All right, your homework tonight, once again, is the back of page 12, or it's the very last page of your packet. It's page 12, and it is only, 7 questions to do. The first 4 are extremely straightforward. Remember to look back at your notes and Number 12 and 13 are those work backwards questions, which you have in your notes. If you happen to finish early, I did not give you guys IXL or anything to do this week. You guys can do this quizzes, and there's a link on your Canvas page, and earn yourself, you get an 80% or better, you can get a couple of extra credit points added to your homework assignment. So you'll start off with over 100% in math class for fourth quarter. So remember, your test is on Thursday. Have excellent behavior and have a wonderful weekend.